It's a good thing the song of the meadowlark is so sweet, because during springtime in Teton County, there's no escaping it. Also inescapable, though much less sweet, is the song of political campaigning.
Did you know Llew Jones sides with Democrats more than any other Republican in the Montana legislature?
In this election cycle, politics arrived earlier than usual.
That's right. Time and again Jones is there when Democrats need him but abandons Republicans when we need him most.
Attack ads like this robocall started reaching north central Montanans way back in June, soon after lawmakers returned home from the session and a full year before primary election day.
The first time the negative ads hit, you could hear the people in the community going, "Why are they doing that?"
Vicki Baker said she learned how to be a Republican from her grandfather, who started sheep ranching in Bynum in the 1930s.
He had some pretty staunch beliefs of, he believed the government shouldn't be taking care of people, the churches should be taking care of people. But we still have that concern for our neighbors. If the world were to end tomorrow, I would want to be in Teton County.
Baker lives in Senate District 9, which stretches from the Canadian border to the hills of Helena Valley Northwest. Vying to represent her are two Republicans who served together in the House in 2025, Llew Jones and Zack Wirth. It may be the highest profile primary of the current GOP tug-of-war, but far from the only one.
We have 40 plus contested primaries where each side of this divide, the more hard right conservatives versus the other side of the Republican Party, it's about as bitter as I've ever seen it, and certainly probably the most expensive as I've ever seen it.
Llew Jones is a prominent Conrad business owner and a 22-year veteran of the state legislature known for crunching numbers and working across the aisle. Last session, he was the chair of the House Appropriations Committee, a position with a lot of power over the state budget.
Oh yeah, it looks all right. We have a war between those that want to make a difference and those that want to make a statement, which is why I'll put the actual track record, the workhorse track record, up against the show pony track record any day.
Zack Wirth runs a guest ranch north of Helena and is leaving his House seat of 4 years to take on Jones. He said the decision to run was his alone, but not without some nudging from party leadership.
He said, "Do you want to go to the Senate?" And I says, "No way in hell. But I will for this purpose. Because I think the people of Montana are going to be better off if we can replace and get some fresh blood."
Longtime politics reporter Mike Dennison, now retired, says some version of this fight has been going on for nearly 2 decades. Before the 2013 session, Dennison watched the soon-to-be Senate Majority Leader, Art Whittick, steer the party to the right, only to be stymied by a small Republican bloc. In an email from around that time, Whittick directed his faction to purge the party of defectors like Jones.
But it's the fact that intent matters.
The people within this group that often side with the Democrats on certain issues do look to Llew Jones as one of their leaders because he knows so much about how things run.
In the 2025 session, Jones and others in his caucus worked with Democrats and Governor Gianforte to overpower the hardline conservatives on big issues like property tax, Medicaid expansion, and judicial reform. Although Jones served in the House last session, it was the story of 9 senators bucking the party who earned the attention of national news outlets and the moniker Nasty Nine.
And I think the last session really just exacerbated that because we had the group of 9 right from the get-go rebelling and toppling the leadership in the Senate and rendering the leadership in the Senate basically ineffectual for the entire session right out of the gate. So I think that just really just kind of elevated the animosity between the two sides.
After the 2025 session ended, the Montana GOP elected none other than Art Whittick to serve as the state chair, and soon after, the party began picking sides.
So that election of Art Whittick was one signal out to the greater Republican Party statewide that we actually want people held accountable when they don't do what they should be doing.
Darren Gaub is the chair of the Republican Central Committee in Lewis and Clark County, which includes a portion of Senate District 9. In April, the committee took an unprecedented step.
I move that the Lewis and Clark Republican Central Committee endorse Zack Wirth. Second.
Normally, it's been more tradition than requirement. You stay out of the primary election entirely. and let it just run. And then who's ever left after the primary, you get behind that person and you try to get them across the finish line. That's what's changing. That's what you witnessed, was this central committee saying, in a few races, there are 2 candidates or so who are very different. And the best one that's in alignment with the Constitution and the principles of limited government and the state GOP platform is, person B.
Vicki Baker also plays a leadership role in the Teton County Central Committee, serving as treasurer. Baker told us the Central Committee won't even meet until after the primaries are over, though she supports Llew Jones as an individual.
Because the Central Committee does not pick candidates, I think that has allowed us personally to support the people we want to support. And we can do it whatever way we want.
Even so, whatever support Republican candidates get at the county level is competing for attention against outside groups, spending huge amounts of money from often undisclosed donors to push and pull state legislative seats. 16 candidates, including Llew Jones, have employed the services of Fireweed Analytics, a campaign strategy company with connections to the Democratic Party. And as of the latest campaign finance reporting deadline, centrist Republicans also got a nearly $800,000 boost from a PAC called Conservatives for Montana, much of which came from 2 progressive dark money groups based in Wyoming. And on the other side, Americans for Prosperity, a far-right advocacy group associated with the Koch brothers, reported over $400,000 spent supporting candidates like Zack Wirth. Accountability in State Government, a Montana-based PAC, is funneling a $825,000 check from a dark money group based in Maryland.
So we're talking already this year of $2 million being spent by outside groups on legislative primaries in Montana. It's just unheard of that much money is coming in on these races where people used to run on like $5,000, $10,000. And so that shows you how intense and this rivalry has become.
Since its beginnings, that rivalry has centered around the question of how big or small the state government should be.
And we have this small group of Republicans who I often call them moderates. They don't like being called moderates, but we have this small group of Republicans who I think kind of feel there are times when we think government has a role to play to solve problems and do things. Then we have the majority of the Republican Party, which is much more, I think, libertarian and anti-government, and says it's not the job of government to step in and do these things. I think that's the tension, that's the policy difference between the two sides.
In 2025, Jones left a large fingerprint on a contentious package of property tax reforms that shifted the tax burden away from primary residences for all but the most expensive houses. It was a signature Gianforte priority with bipartisan support. At a candidate forum in Choteau in April, Jones and Wirth rehashed the debate from the session.
In 2021 to 2023, $270 million transferred on to residential because residential exploded. This tax bill cut taxes for 400,000 people. Now I know there are those that are angry. Northwest Energy, for example, saved $38 million when it transferred to residential. Now they're back to about where they were, and they're quite angry because they would rather shift it a different direction. But absolutely, it's a great start. We're going to have to look at the unintended consequences and make adjustments, but 400,000 Montanans are better off because we made this decision.
Zack, go ahead.
Excuse me. I did not support this. I thought it was too great of a tax shift. I thought it was playing a lot of dancing around with some of our taxes, like a street shell game almost. And what people need more is predictability and accountability. And I think we need to look at a complete overhaul. Thank you very much.
They want party unity and they want a government that works well. Then it means arguing and convincing and persuading those people to also see it our way, which is reducing size of government.
I do what I call a grandkids test. I believe government is too short-visioned, and that we always worry about the 2 years from now instead of looking forward. And we don't take into account that our kids and our grandkids are going to inherit the items we don't take care of. I feel our grandparents handed us some pretty decent roads and water and sewer, and we deserve the respect of doing so as well.
Another primary race represented at the forum in Shoto was HD 17, the seat being vacated by Wirth between Wirth's ideological successor, Justin Cleveland, and Susan Giese, a member of the moderate wing of the party and one-time chair of the Montana GOP. After the forum, Giese discovered a stack of flyers with AI illustrations of her buddying up with John Tester.
Here we go, speaking of AI. Here it is. And look, and I wonder who snuck up and put this on there. They didn't even put their name on it. That's against the law. Ask Melody to follow up.
You know, it's that burr under the saddle blanket. It just doesn't feel good. And that bothers me. You know, we're being led down a path that I don't think we should be going down.
And these days, where goes the Republican Party, goes the state.
These are the most important races on the ballot in Montana this year, without a doubt. Because who wins these primaries determines who controls the 2027 legislature, who controls the major policy issues facing the state, who controls tax policy, who controls environmental policy, who controls healthcare policy, who controls how we fashion our judiciary. These are the things that will be decided by the 2027 legislature, and these races will decide who's in control and who's in power.
For Impact, I'm Sam Wilson.